So here I opened a bit wider because those guys seemed quite tight, although to be fair I didn't have that much information. But I think again, stealing wide in late position is fine. The ace 7 I'm gonna ISO, again the guy playing way too many hands, and then a 10-7 just checking back here with my middle pair, trying to navigate to showdown, don't want to inflate the pot. Probably going for the delay c-bet now if they check to me, but if they bet, going to just call. And then probably calling the river as well. And with the a7, I think a small c-bet is still gonna work. And we can navigate turns a little bit better. He overbets now on the river, which is not great. And a7 just calling, just folding. Sorry, plan was to barrel 9x diamonds, and maybe a king. And then here he now overbets after going small or half pot on a turn. So a hand like queen jack. Does he overbet a king? Does he bet a 9 on the turn? We have a lot of 9x here naturally, checking back. So I don't think we need to call this hand. We also block some bluffs with the 7 of diamonds. So I think this one goes into fold unless I have some read that he's over bluffing for the overbet sizing. But in the end, it's microstakes and people don't really overbet bluff much. ISO the 7-5 suited, going for a c-bet here. Small sizing, really good board for me. And the ace 3 suited, just going to check back, facing the flat from the small band. Facing a half pot lead against a smaller, we could maybe do something against half pot. I think we're just folding. We really want to have higher cards here, or at least some more equity. We see another small probe, which is a good sizing, allows him to pretty much bet any pair, puts a lot of our ace size into tough spots. But obviously with a pair, we have an easy call. And now in the river, we have the decision: do we want to bluff catch? What are his bluffs? Missed spades, missed hearts, 5, 6, ace 5. So probably a good spot to bluff catch, but we don't need to, so we can just check it back and we're winning against 3 deuce. That's great. Let's 3-bet the 9-8 suited here. You could also just call. Both options are fine. And the king 6 suited into a recreational in a big blind I'm going to open. Definitely a hand that you want to make dependent on your opponents or the people behind, if they're aggressive or not. If there's recreationals who's going to flat call a lot, it's not so great, but when they're recreationals in the big blind, it's great to expand your opening range a little bit to get into pots with them. Let's see, we still have this guy here with a very, very high VPIP, but we didn't hit anything yet. He got the better of us so far. Ace 10, you could throw in as a 3-bet against early position, definitely fine, but mainly just calling. Queen 4 deuce, if he goes like for min bet or 25%, we could consider to float, although in early position it's not as great as if we're against the button. And ace, we still have ace jack, that would be better. On the turn I'm gonna play a polar strategy, kind of going for bets with like almost 2 pair better and then using a big overbet sizing. And on the river, after he checked back so quickly in the turn again, I think we can go for a even large bet here with our strongest 10. Trying to get called by a 7x, 8s, 9s, king 10, jack 10, and we get even called by ace 5-5, so that's great. 3-bet the ace 2 suited, a bit loose, but again this guy seems on the wider side, and just simplifying to a 1/3 range bet, gonna be fine here. Could also use half pot, both options really work, but we don't really have anything going for our hand, so I don't mind starting out with a smaller bet and then just folding obviously to the raise. On table 4 with 3-betting jacks and just taking it down. So we definitely note that this guy is capable of hearing ace high, and he also decided not to bluff it, right? On a board that's quite good for him. So someone who likes to take his showdown value, which is something you can exploit really, really hard by, you know, going thin for value the next time you have any pair there, right? You know that you can value bet maybe for a smaller sizing, but just making sure to go for thin value against someone who maybe checks back a bit to cap and then also calls. And be a bit more careful when this guy c-bets, because he doesn't c-bet, you know, his air or his ace high hands, so he's probably gonna have either too many strong hands, just made hands, or draws too much. King 9 against the recreation, I would normally 3-bet. If we 3-bet, we're kind of stacking off, which is not great. So I think, given the stack depth, we just have to skip it. Definitely let me know in the comments which format you like better, the regular tables or the rush and cash format. Action is definitely going to be slower on regular tables, but they are by far more profitable. Not sure about GG with the rake, etc., but in general, playing regular tables on any site will be more profitable. There's just guys like this one with 50% VPIP that get it in with whatever random cards that they have, while on rush and cash, you know, nobody needs to play the really bad hands. Pocket fives, unfortunately, we just have to fold. Can't really do anything here. So there's some regulars. This guy seems to be quite regular, using a normal 3-bet sizing. Again here, pocket sixes might seem loose, but remember, this guy plays really wide. We want to get involved. So any playable hand will throw in there, especially because we are in position. Right, we just want to take advantage of that. So hoping that nobody behind wakes up with a strong hand. And also 3-betting my ace 9 suited against the recreational. Again, a hand that is close in theory, but in practice we definitely want to get involved. And you see this guy's just folding a lot, which is great. This is a bit of an unfortunate outcome. Obviously, we don't know that this guy, you know, sometimes he's going to wake up with a good hand, but obviously for 12 big blinds more, we can never fold. Just have to hope that he sometimes has like pocket eights, or maybe he has pocket kings, pocket queens we're doing fine against. Ace queen is kind of the hand that we don't want to see. Once or twice, doesn't really matter. Let's just hit some diamonds. But yeah, obviously for that price we can never fold. Let's just hit a diamond on the river. But unfortunately this time you didn't get there. Pocket eights against a flat from the small blind. Don't mind checking behind or betting. I think eights actually I like as a check back. And that's a wonderful river. Queen 8 suited. We definitely can have some checks. We can also have some c-bets. I would just expect the c-bet to overperform on these boards. And then going for a small c-bet, kind of seeing I have a 5, a 6, and 8. Obviously not always going to turn a set here. The Queen 8 now just going to check back and then probably bluffing the river. Maybe giving him a chance to also bluff races, pocket deuces, pocket fours, pocket threes with a heart that he flats. And there we have it. Pocket fours multi-way is just going to check fold pretty much, but paying attention to what they do, potentially bluffing later. Just going to press call with my 8s here, hoping for board pairing river. And now when he leads out large, nothing to do other than just folding with the Queen 8. We saw it check around. We could consider taking a stab at it now. How likely are they really to check an ace on the flop? And then this guy to check again. So I don't mind going for the stab there now for a large bet. Kind of. And then the 8s, probably just calling. I think value raising is a bit too thin here. He could definitely have 6s and 5s here, so we're never really folding. This time, unfortunately, we run into the flush. But I think, yeah, just a cooler, not much that we can do there. Here we opened, we got called. We see it on the flop, he checked called. On the turn, we still have a gut shot, but I don't see too many hands that... I mean, he could definitely fold, but I don't mind checking this one back without... Actually, I changed my mind. I like betting. If I had a club, spade in my hand, I actually prefer checking it back to realize my equity. But this hand, I don't mind betting again. And it's a nice hand to bluff if the river comes to 4 of spades, where I don't really have any perceived bluffs anymore. And if he just calls a small bet twice, I think he's going to fast play a lot of his, a lot of his pocket pairs, or sorry, his queen X, his, 2 pairs and straights there. So I think once he just calls, we can profitably bluff on the river. But again, going back to the pocket 8 hand, definitely worth to take a note. You know, he checked on the flop, he checked on the turn again to us with his strong hand instead of leading out, and then went for a check raise and closed the pot size bet. So all of these things take note of, and then keep in mind for future plays. Here we have the recreational on the button. So opening a hand like King 6 suited isn't that great when he can call hands like King 10 offsuit and King 9 offsuit and King 8 suited, when our hand really just wants to get folds. So be careful expanding your opening raising range when you're from under the gun. When you have recreationals behind, usually the bottom of your opening range performs worse, even if we have an advantage against those players. Just gonna check my a6 again. See another very, very quick check. Tempting to just bluff here, but I think with ace high we can just take our showdown. And the King 9, I'm going to call. Could also squeeze with some dead money out there, but playing multi-way with 2 recreationals with a hand that plays quite well multi-way is fine, I think. We lose to ace jack, kind of what I expected him to have. Checks around and the jack comes on the turn. Wouldn't be the worst to lead out small, but I think check calling works fine, and then if they check again we can still value bet the river. If we bet and then they raise, we kind of in no man's land where they have a lot of natural bluffs that they pick up on the turn, and you know, like the Queen 10, 10 8, King Queen, King 10, clubs obviously, right? So we're still happily check calling. But if he'd lead out and get raised to a bit more no man's land, so I think just check calling is fine. And then kind of see what he does on the river. Obviously he's going to hit a jack quite sometimes. Now the question is, do we want to lead out? A jack is going to check back. Maybe a hand like King 10 is going to check back. And if he bets, he's probably reopening with a hand that is stronger than ours. So I think leading out here is actually better. Trying to get called by a jack, King Queen, King 10. Because if I check, the only hands he's going to reopen are hands that actually have us beat. Alright, so this way we got more value from a hand like Jack 10, and if we check to him, he's only really gonna reopen hands like King Jack or better, and flushes and straights obviously. So important when you play against recreationals, don't just auto snap, right? There's no GTO, there's no, just do whatever your hand wants to do, and make sure you get that value. And if he raises there, unless we have some sort of read, normally it's best to just fold. 7-4 suited against a min open will definitely defend. Flop bottom pair. And Jack X, just going for a range bet. Face a small C bet. We have enough natural draws. You could check raise some of your bottom pairs, but I'd rather check raise like 4-3, 4 deuce, 5-4 maybe with the backdoor. Equity, and just going to check call this one. 7-6, I'm going to check back, bluff the river. Not too big of a fan of bluffing 0 equity hands. And here with the 7-4, we can do an interesting play. We could go for the jack jam. We have 7-5, he never has that. We have pocket 6s, he never has that. He can improve to king queen, which is one hand that he's probably never going to fold, but that would barrel the turn a decent amount. And now the 7-6 is probably a bit too thin to value bet here. An 8 that definitely value bet. I mean, he should bet pretty much any 8 or better, so we can try and do something here. Not theory approved, but he's gonna have a lot of ace highs here. Pocket 6s to pocket deuces that might flick in the call here. He checked the river quite quickly. So I think if he had an 8, he would at least think about value betting. Queen 10 against 2.5x from under the gun. It's just going to be a fold. We didn't get value this time, but was worth trying. Obviously, you have to be careful doing this plays or reopening small in position, because you open yourself up to getting re-raised. 9-6 suited against such a small 3-bet. Cannot actually peel this one. Plays quite well. We're not really dominated. We can make some strong hands. We get a good price. Again, opening wider from every position, as you've already seen. Just given that people probably play a bit too weak. 9-7 here. We have backdoor straight, backdoor flush. Let's go for a c-bet. Could also just check fold this, but this is a good board for me, so let's go ahead and c-bet this. Although he plays a high VPP, it seems like he's not getting too much out of line.